How you doing, Melissa Rolston?
I'm well. How are you?
Nice to see you.
Sorry.
Cal Post.
Hi.
Hi.
Pleasure to meet you.
Hey, big deal. Melissa Rolston for Boveda. BovedaInc.com is where you get your two-way humidity control packs that keeps your medical marijuana fresh, man. And like every comedian who typically has a medical license loves this new two-way humidity control pack. I forget, you're a consumer, Cal Post.
Oh, yeah.
And we ran out of product because I think Pete Johansson stole them all. Or so I forget who it was. But, so I have I'll have more for you next time. But they're
you
sending
owe me
us
gin. You owe me.
Oh no, I owe you the vodka, buddy. Why didn't you remind me to bring in New Amsterdam vodka? I literally have 12 bottles sitting in my case.
Everybody I know who comes on the show comes back with gifts.
I know. I forget. Oh, you got to be. You know what you got to do is tweet at me. Because now it's like, if you tweet at me and remind me now, I'm like, okay, but they're also kind of, blowing smoke up my sponsors, but on Twitter, which is good. So now I feel like doubly more accountable to have to bring it in.
I'm going to tweet you my grocery list.
Okay. I heard baby carrots are bad for you, by the way. Apparently a lot of bleach in them. That's just what someone told me recently. So stop buying baby carrots. Unless they sponsor the show, then go get them. Okay. Hi, Melissa.
Hey.
So how are you?
I'm well.
Congrats on the Forbes article.
Thanks.
That was a big deal. Why don't you tell us a little bit? Are you high right now?
No,
Okay.
no. I'm just.
You seem extra giddy today.
No, I just wasn't expecting you to talk about it.
Oh, no, I read this article talking about this young entrepreneur who's a big advocate in the medical marijuana industry and does Women Grow, which she's the CEO of, and it's like a nonprofit. It's okay, you are.
And it's not a nonprofit
organization.
It's a for-profit.
They don't make any
tons
money.
of fucking profit.
It's a for-profit.
So tell me about the Forbes article.
So I met Siobhan Lindley, who's the writer, back in February. And she wanted to do a preliminary interview, so I said okay. And then we did an original preliminary interview, and then she kind of wanted to get me to talk more about my patient story. And I consulted a few different PR consultants before I actually disclosed everything with her. So then when we sat down for our actual recorded interview, we just talked about everything kind of, and we spoke a lot about different strategies that entrepreneurs can implement into their lives, especially young entrepreneurs. She really likes to take the female perspective. I like to try to think that being a female doesn't have a lot of barriers because I'm too optimistic, as you would say. But I don't know, like we just discussed it and discussed different solutions that people can do, and yeah, it was.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's fun. Forbes is a big deal.
Yeah.
Is that that's an American publication, right?
It is, yeah. It's pretty controversial, or not controversial. Conservative magazine too. So it's nice that they're highlighting women and they're doing. It was in their leadership section, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. Hey, let's write an article about them broads they said in the boardroom.
Oh my God, stop!
I like the conservatives were against weed for so long until they realized how much money is involved.
Right.
Well, and maybe it's not so cha-ching,
but liberals
cha-ching.
are like that too.
Well, see, the thing is that the conservative government is actually the one who implemented the commercial scaled growing distribution system that we have.
Cool.
So they introduced the MMPR, which has been switched to the ACMPR, and then the liberals are going to try and legalize.
Cool. That's where you get the license. What are you talking about today for the Boveda report?
I want to talk about insurance coverage because that's a huge issue in Canada right now. So I don't know.
Free weed.
Oh yeah, is this covered under OHIP?
No, it's not. So basically,
I never thought to ask that actually.
Yeah, no, it's not, and it's actually causing a lot of issues with medical patients. So there's actually an article in Lyft that was posted today, and Dr. Michael Vobora, he is the medical director at the Cannabis clinic. He has been working with a patient who's 2 years old, and since they started... Yeah, they're 2 years old. They're doing CBD-only treatments for their anti-seizure medications. They've been able to come off some of their medications. However, they're still being prescribed 5 anti-seizure medications, which is all covered under pharmacare and one of their parents' employee benefits, but their CBD isn't covered. So they're paying us almost $700 a month.
So 2-year-old kid is getting seizures.
Yeah,
this other medication
they have cerebral palsy. They basically had one of their veins in their brain were too short, and they had a prenatal stroke.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
Now, sorry to hear that. I have a 2-year-old at home. I can't imagine, any sort of health contraindications. It would just be, as a parent, it would be so emotionally tough. But none of these other medications are working. Is that what I'm getting at? That are covered?
So they work.
Okay.
They just come with they don't work very well, actually. So essentially, this child was having up to 50 seizures. Let me just double check. I'm pretty sure it was an hour. Per hour. 50 spasms per hour. And with the CBD, it's now down to 20 spasms per day. And as they continue to grow, their dose has to change. So it's going to go from $700 to $1,000, and it's just going to keep increasing.
Yeah, I feel Cal Post. You think that should be covered?
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
And it's also important to say that the CBD, right?
Yeah. So
that's not the part that gets you stoned. Because this American
it's
news goes crazy about
intoxicating.
Right.
Yeah.
Because the American news goes bananas over like giving kids weed, and they try to create a moral platform for it being wrong. It's like you don't understand the medication that's being given in the first place, so you really shouldn't. It's not. You can't lump just weed in with everything. Like it's all just people getting high for fun. It's really important that kid needs that medication. Otherwise, he'll never properly function in society.
Well, I agree with that, but also, I mean, like in Canada, like in this article, it was stating that out of 62 countries worldwide, we stand out in a negative way because we're the only developed nation which hasn't instituted a universal pharmacare program. So it kind of looks bad on us, especially because we're like, free healthcare, yay! But it's also kind of, it's sad to think that this child is going to try to be weaned off all their anti-seizure medication so that they don't really have, like, right now they're on a feeding tube because of a side effect of one of their anti-seizure medications. If they didn't have to take that, then maybe they could start to eat again. Or maybe it's already too far along.
Yeah, I think cases where CBD
you know what I mean?
or I don't, like in for adults, if it's just a medical marijuana, I think that if there are proven cases of this being effective in curing or at least helping people with ailments. And this is a taxpayer now. Just think of this. I think that
curing isn't the right word. It's managing symptoms.
No, but I'll just say curing because I wanted to.
But it's just scientifically incorrect.
No, not necessarily.
I mean, weed cures boredom. Can I get it covered?
Yeah, exactly.
No, but it's not curing it. It's just managing those symptoms. Like when they're on the CBD, they're on the medication. Their symptoms are now managed so that they're at a manageable level, so they can enhance their quality of life.
But I mean, if there's proven statistics that show this, and maybe it'll take some time to show it. I'm comfortable as a tax-paying citizen to say I'm okay with that being covered because you look at what other stuff we're covering from the big pharmas and you realize all the other contraindications, the word I like to use, that are causing and are eating up our healthcare system. Mm-hmm. With the opioid crisis and things like that, and then people have to go and have perma care and stuff because they became so messed up with this stuff. So that's the thing. Like we got to really look into this. I never thought to ask this. This is a good topic.
Yeah. So there's only been a few people who have actually been able to get their cannabis paid for by their insurance. The first one was actually Jonathan.
Cal Post, was that you?
I had to start my own insurance company.
Yeah. Perfect.
I don't know how kosher it is.
So Jonathan Zaid, he actually was able to receive coverage through Student Union and Sun Life Financial. So after a year of using medicine and getting a vaporizer, because it's the only medical way to administer it according to Health Canada, before they came out with oils and everything, they paid him, they reimbursed him for that whole year. And there's also a case that just came up in Nova Scotia, which a lot of people are kind of banking or hoping on the idea that it's going to
be precedent setting.
Yeah. And basically that was Gordon Skinner, and he put in a claim to his coverage, which was the Canadian Elevator Industry Welfare Trust Plan. And because they said that it violated the province's human rights when they denied his claim. So now they have to cover all of his expenses, not just a percentage. And this is even a huge issue with veterans. Veterans right now are entitled to 10 grams per day, and they've been cut down to 3. And I was just speaking on a panel with Dr. Celeste Thurwell, and she's been having to do more psychiatric appointments in the evening just to write all these letters to these insurance companies saying, like, these people actually need this dosage and this is why.
Yeah.
And she's like spending
Little Birdie told me, though, the problem with that is a lot of vets were. This is what a little birdie told me. Okay, it's unconfirmed, but a lot of them who didn't actually use it were just getting it and then reselling it, and I think that's why the government started being like, okay, maybe we got to figure out what the balance. And don't get me wrong, Glenn Coyle is a buddy of mine who needs medical marijuana because he has PTSD.
Yeah,
and I love him. Have you ever met Glenn?
No, I haven't.
Serves his country, great guy. We're going to bring him in next week for the segment. Actually, we should talk about this because he's a beauty.
Yeah, I'd love to meet him.
And
I'm a
anyway,
military brat.
What's that?
I'm a military brat.
Okay, well. All I'm saying is he'll come in and he obviously he's an advocate to as why many soldiers do need that high rate as well.
But some of them
he's not selling it. He's not one of those guys.
No, but
Even if they are selling it, off. You're just pissed because they're cutting in on your money. That's all you're pissed off about. Go fuck yourself.
I love Cal.
Government. They're selling it. You want to sell it. Everybody wants to sell it because it's a great way to make easy cash, and it's easy, and everyone wants to be fucking high. End of story. Let's just have the best time we can with it. Why is it such a big deal?
Don't look back.
Don't look back.
That's our hashtag of the day.
Is that your hashtag of the day?
Don't look back.
Oh, amazing.
Well, that's good. Melissa, what do you got, Bilal?
No, I'm sorry. This Don't Look Back. That's the last thing Shimmy Skywalker said to Anakin Skywalker, and then it became Darth Vader. So you guys got to stop saying that. It's freaking me out. I've been holding that in for like half an hour.
Who are you worried about becoming Darth Vader, blah?
It's me or Pedro, if not both of us.
I think it would.
Bilal, you'll never be a father.
Oh my God, you guys are so mean.
You'll need to adapt. Because your hasn't gone into a Darth.
Poor guy.
What else going on, Melissa Rolston?
You should see how strong the force is going to be with this guy.
So I was reading an article just this past weekend, and Harvard actually released a study called The Opioid Epidemic, Fixing a Broken Pharmaceutical Market. And it basically explains how the American public has been duped or tricked by the elites for more than 20 years. Wow. So it's very, This
is Harvard done.
Yeah.
What is some of the stats? Does it have some crazy stats on it? Do you have them with you?
Yeah, I do.
This is crazy. Cal, I figure like you would have you would know a lot about this topic.
Well, I mean, pharmaceutical companies, the general public's been a long-standing tradition in politics and.
It's been a conversation.
I mean, I come from a family that suffers a lot of depression, and they take pills, and pills turn into sleeping pills, and the sleeping pills, they weaken over time, and you just watch people, and before you know it, they're, handfuls of pills just to start the day. Yeah. And Canadians are not even close to how Americans deal with their symptoms, because they're just straight up,
Well, I mean,
because they can't show any of that vulnerability.
After I say some of these numbers,
yeah. Let's number it up. The show's getting too fun. Let's get some numbers in here.
Let's get depressed and go and get some pills. Okay.
No. Okay, so in the 1990s, chronic pain management became a really hot topic, and that was around the time where physicians were starting to be urged to make greater use of opioids, and the experts, the higher level experts, were downplaying the potentials of misuse and addiction, and those were based on their views from just experiencing morphine in general. So basically, in 1995, OxyContin was patented and approved by the FDA, which was the extended release oxycodone, aka Purdue, which is the pharmaceutical company's golden ticket. So the way that they went about the patenting process is kind of fraudulent, and the article goes into details about that. So the patent was based on corporate fraud and government ignorance. It was originally rejected by the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office because the combination was deemed to be too obvious. And then Purdue responded with a statistical falsehood, knowing that it was false. So they knew that it was false.
Yeah, but just tell me how many people were getting up. That's what I want to find out.
Okay, so you have to give a little bit of the background.
No, I don't have enough time for that.
Okay, fine.
Okay. So I can send people to the article.
Basically, in 1996 to 2000, they doubled their marketing team. 2001, Purdue paid over $40 million in bonuses that were tied to the extended release oxycodone, so OxyContin. When
did they ban it in Canada? Do you know? Was that 4 years ago? 4 or 5 years ago?
What they did is they came out with a abuse deterrent formula, which was basically, when I worked in chronic pain clinics, they were switching over from OxyContin to this new drug. I forget exactly what it's called, but you couldn't crush it anymore. So it wasn't supposed to be as addictive.
That's when I stopped using it.
Oh my
No,
god.
your teeth look too good for that. Okay.
But so the issue with
I know you're lying.
the issue with the abuse deterrent formula is that it actually didn't deter addicts. It was fuel behind the explosion of the heroin epidemic.
Remember like a few years ago, they're breaking into pharmacies to steal this stuff. Like people, like it became such an epidemic. And it still is in the States. It's so sad, man. And the stigma about marijuana, man. Let's just start having some more. Chill out a little bit, man.
Cannabis can be a solution for the opioid crisis, but also, when I was speaking on the Women Girl panel just this past Thursday.
Humble brag.
That was that wasn't. I was gonna say
I have the best girlfriend in the world.
Dr. Landolt said.
It's pretty cute.
Shut up. She basically said that when things are used in moderation, they're not that bad for you. And opioids aren't meant to be used every single day. They're meant to be.
But it's the addictive part about it.
Yeah, but the thing is like if someone's in such severe chronic pain and they're having a flare up that day, they should use their opioid.
I see, but just that day.
Yeah, and there's ways that you can be stabilized on your medicine, and a lot of physicians are trying to move.
You need like a big bouncer to come with it, like with your medication, and like if you try and get past the line, that's the second day. You're like, unless you got some extra money in your cash or wearing your high heels and that big. You ain't getting by that line, that's what they need.
What's insane is with the opioid crisis, what's going on with fentanyl right now, and all the people dying from this is it doesn't even kill a fraction of what smoking kills, and yet we still sell them like it's okay. Like we are like it's bad. We wrote it on the package. It's on the package. Yeah. Like we shouldn't be selling it at all. Sugar kills more people than anybody in North America, and it's sugar. That's it.
My whole thing about the fentanyl crisis going on right now, it's absolutely horrible. However, there are some chronic pain patients that have been prescribed fentanyl on a very stable dose for a very long time. No, but as soon as this whole fentanyl crisis happened, those physicians are too scared to prescribe it, and now these patients had to be weaned off the only medicine that they've been using for 5-10 years that worked for their chronic pain in low doses, and now some of those people are turning to the street, which is not cool or okay at all. So there has to be some sort of
on where I grew up.
Yeah. No, I don't even know where you grew up. Oh, you grew up on the street.
Well, Melissa, that's interesting. Is there? Can you surmise the article?
Basically, I was just saying that 3 million people in the U.S. were prescribed opioids in 2015, and in Canada, I was looking it up. Over 2 million Ontarians had prescriptions for opioids in 2015, 2016. So the difference between these numbers
most of them in Peterborough, I've been told.
There's a reason why they still have mullets in Oshawa.
Stop.
They never left the 80s, baby. We're still partying.
Oh my god.
Woo, opiates.
Yeah, hashtag if I could spell it.
Oh my god.
Oshawa hashtag looking back.
You're horrible. Well,
with one eye closed. Okay. Melissa, that's good information. All this stuff. I never thought about because we have medical marijuana here.
Yeah.
About it being covered. That's something I'm going to be an advocate of. I believe if it's really working, why not?
I think that it should be covered, and I think that it can help wean people off their opioids. So especially in terms of chronic pain.
It's like an all-encompassing kind of effect here. I agree with you. I think
it's a dimmer switch, right? Like opioids and cannabinoids are the opioid receptors, cannabinoid receptors are synergistic. So the opioid receptors, your on and off switch for your pain, and the cannabinoid receptors are your dimmer switch. So they modulate it.
Is there something we can do with doctors too to have them properly protected so that they can prescribe things like fentanyl without a ludicrous, news culture going bananas?
That's something that you want to talk to the College of Physicians about, and I wish you good luck.
Okay.
They are
I never
hard
understood why they
crack.
called them the College of Physicians, because when I think
You have
people
to
go
go to
college,
university. You're a doctor.
Underwear on my head.
Yeah, the frat boys. Anyway, Melissa, I love these reports brought to you by Boveda. BovedaInc.com, a two-way humidity control pack that keeps this medical cannabis that you can't get free yet, but potentially will one day fresh. I do appreciate you coming in. As always, it's a pleasure to have you here.